Hello, good evening and welcome to Joy News at 8. My name is Gifty Ando Apia.
And my name is Evans Mensah. In the headlines tonight, the most talked about constitutional instrument on new constituencies is to be withdrawn.
NPP downplays the efficiency of a Mahama Emisa Arthur ticket, saying nothing has changed with Professor Mills's death.
Also tonight, National House of Chiefs to protest and petition until their recommendations for a second chamber of parliament is heard.
In business, Cowbank stakeholders should be smiling as the bank's half-year profits soars to over 200%.
In entertainment, the Bomaye House is heating up as the grand final beckons. We will bring you more in the e-news segment.
And in sports, Multimedia Group secures rights for the 2012 English Premier League.
Elsewhere in Africa, flooding in central Nigeria kills 28 people.
So we have all these and more coming up in the next 1 hour. Let's take a stories now in detail. The ruling National Democratic Congress, led by its General Secretary Johnson Asiedu Nketia, has paid a courtesy call on all political parties to express appreciation for their support during the death and funeral rite of the late President John Evans Atta Mills. The 8-member delegation first visited the NPP headquarters in Accra.
The visit, as tradition demands, is to say ayiko to the opposition parties who in diverse ways mourned with NDC at the loss of the late president. General Secretary Asiedu Nketia in his message said the party was encouraged with the open support shown by all the other political parties during NDC's difficult moments.
I want to thank you very much for the show of brotherly love for us. We hope that we can continue in this direction even as we pursue our divisive politicking. There will be times we will see ourselves as members of a political class who has a common interest in leading this country, whoever is in the steering wheel.
In his response, the national chairman of the NPP, J. Kubiche Bilamte, said, "Out of any misfortune comes good," referring to the unity Professor Mill's death has brought to the general populace. He was supported by General Secretary Kweju Usuefriye, popularly known as Sir John, and a few stalwarts.
Hopefully, the coverage that the media are giving this event and the coverage that you gave us when we went to call on the National Democratic Congress will send a clear message to our people across the length and breadth of the country that you don't have to beat each other, you don't have to engage in fisticuffs, you don't have to pick up a weapon to try to persuade somebody to persuade them, to support your cause.
Handshakes did a lot of talking. CPP's national chair, Samia Nkrumah, received the delegation with open arms.
For all the steps President Mills took to commemorate his memory and his contribution, we will be eternally grateful. So we deemed it a duty for us to fully cooperate, to give our late president a fitting burial and a dignified farewell.
She said such meetings are just right for our democratic dispensation. And so it was all love. At the PPP office, the response was no difference.
We are all now speaking in good terms, and we hope that it will remain.
It was rather a cheerful gathering at the various venues, since jokes were cracked to lighten the mood.
Our office, as you can see, it's an ultra-modern office. And that I'm sure is a first sign to Ghanaians that the NDC office needs an update.
We also made time to get the response of the People's National Convention, PNC, Alhaji Ahmed Ramadan, show how it was touching the way and manner Ghanaians carried themselves during this hard time of our national life. PNC flag bearer Hassan Ayariga believes he was first to have started the peace process.
He paid more attention to Ghanaians than his own family. And I believe if most of us sitting down here will learn that and continue to preach that and accept and preach the politics of tolerance, the politics of peace, the politics of unity, the politics of love and honesty, I believe that Ghana will move in the next 10 or 20 years beyond where we are expecting Ghana to be.
The political parties do agree it is time to bond for national unity. After the show of love and commitment, it all ended with a prayer and a historical photograph.
Still on the NDC's courtesy calls, some political parties have lauded the gesture. Joy News spoke to some of the chairpersons, including CPP's Samia Nkrumah.
The Convention People's Party appreciates this visit, and we have already decided that these elections will be peaceful. We will contribute to this peace by maintaining a dignified and graceful campaign throughout. These gestures between political parties go a long way to sending a strong message to our supporters, our party members on every side, that for many of us it is country first and party second.
We believe strongly that this death should rather show the way of doing politics anew. We believe the way we did it in the past didn't look too good. Probably this one will trim off the rough edges and we begin to do it more decorously, so that together we can grow our politics, so that outsiders, when they are learning from us, they will learn the good things of politics rather than the way we were doing it in the past.
But the New Patriotic Party was not particularly enthused by the visit, and the national chairman, Jacob Ichebilamte, showed his skepticism.
It's a cultural norm. Okay? You go and inform people that you've lost somebody, they come and sympathize with you. After the funeral, you go and thank them for coming to sympathize with you. It's nothing strange, it's nothing, it's just, unfortunately, if it's taken a death like this, for people to realize that the NPP and the NDC do talk to each other, well, so let them realize it and let everybody know that nobody has to die for politics in this country.
I asked him if he sees the gestures to be a tool of bonding.
I think the big trend that bonds everybody together is that we are all Ghanaians. You don't need any bigger bond than that.
The parties are all geared up towards wresting power from the NDC and are fervently conversing for votes, not for the warm affections of their opponents.
Heads of Ghana's missions abroad have been tasked to continue observing all bilateral agreements between the nation and its foreign allies for closer ties.
President John Dramani Mahama gave the charge to the heads at the castle when they paid a courtesy call on him today.
The 29 heads of Ghana's mission abroad congratulated President Mahama and assured him of their fullest support and allegiance. They said these times call for renewal of the commitment they made 3 years ago to the late President Mills, who put them to their various stations, and to the people of Ghana. President Mahama urged them to take advantage of every opportunity to advance the nation's interest and embrace the Ghanaian community resident at their posts.
I wish to express our deepest condolences to you personally, to the people of Ghana, our brothers and sisters. Excellency, please accept our joint congratulations that we would work with you to deliver the foreign policy objectives of our dear nation.
Ghana's standing in the eyes of the international community has even risen much, much higher. And so even though Ghana was seen as a beacon of democracy in Africa, with the events of the last few weeks, the rest of the world, feels a certain certainty that Ghana is leading the way in terms of democracy, good governance, constitutional rule in Africa. And so it imposes a responsibility on you in respect of upholding that image and reinforcing it.
The president promised to work together with them to address any constraints they may be facing.
The Constitutional Review Commission did not recommend the second chamber of Parliament, which will consist of chiefs, though the House of Chiefs made that input. Just when the Commission thought the chiefs had accepted the decision, Vice President of the National House of Chiefs, Awolai Ateburukusu, says it is not finished yet. He said chiefs will protest and petition until they are heard.
Democracy in Ghana gradually eroded the powers of Ghanaian chiefs who possess so much power. So chiefs are now mainly ceremonial as democratic arms of government now rule the country. The National House of Chiefs insisted that they needed a second chamber of parliament when a Constitutional Review Commission was collating views for amendments. The chiefs made some arguments.
We were less and less being involved in governance. And yet, we control almost more all the people in this country. Originally, we were the be-all and end-all of all power in the country. Now, this has been gradually eroded until we have reached this stage. So we are asking for a recognition to be part of the governance system. I think that it's a legitimate request.
Their views were not recommended for review of the Constitution.
It will be a huge strain on the national budget. Currently, we are trying to equip the single chamber that we have, resource them and make their work easier. We've not been able to get there. The second one is that actually the other places where you have second chambers, the second chambers are more of consultative. So we felt that as a nation, yes, chiefs are not to participate in active party politics, but they can contribute to policy. They can contribute to the development of the country. There are chiefs who have got experience, knowledge, and educational levels which are very comparable to all other people in the society. So by way of benefiting from the two wells, we propose that pass all bills, not only limited to chieftaincy bills, all bills through the National House of Chiefs. They will make their comments, and those comments will be inputted into what Parliament will discuss.
Vice President of the National House of Chiefs, Awolai Ateburukusu, says the House of Chiefs would not take it easy, but would find ways of protesting.
Honestly speaking, none of them still are going to fight the fight because all that we know is that for our voices to be heard, so that people will know at least we are also Ghanaians and at least we can also contribute to the development of the country. Then there should be another chamber for us where we can express our feelings, we can express everything that we want to say, rather than to be channeling through some people. That is why Nanan was requesting for an upper chamber, because as the Constitution says, we have no right to do active politics. If we have no right to do, and it is something that we cannot and we should not even do, then our voices should be held through another place. Once it has been rejected, that doesn't mean it is the end of it, because there are other rooms whereby we can say channel our views, because we have been made to know that even with the white paper, that is not the end of it. That is not the end of the road.
Alternative arguments that bills will be sent to them for their input did not sound any better to his ears.
It is easier to say than done. They have said it. It is easier to say than done. But in our local dialect, what is it? It has been said. More or less something like alternative. Let us sit down and see if it's going to be workable. In Ghana, if they should say they want you to have a look at it, it is like they are going to do their own thing and bring it to us. I am asking you just a simple question. Do you think if they should bring to us and you say you are not in support of this, and will they agree and remove it? Or do we agree and amend it? It is not going to be done. It is going to be ceremonial. They will do it, and after that, they will bring it for us to see. It's something like showcase.
He insists government would have to meet them to further discuss the issue.
Locally, I have been here to chair this very great function, and upon that, it has been explained to me, and I've had a little gist of it, even not to the fully understanding. What about the others? So for sure, if actually they mean to do business for us, they mean to do something good for us, then they should find a way out by meeting us at the National House of Chiefs.
But until then, they will not relent in projecting their voice.
Now, women's rights advocate Angela Jambana-Boaje has taken a swipe at the chiefs' proposal, saying the House itself is not even representative of women's interests. He joins us live now on the line. Thank you very much, madam, for your time here on Joy News at 8. Certainly, the chiefs are within the rights to ask for a second chamber.
Absolutely. Everybody is within their rights to ask for what they think is part of the national cake in terms of our democratic processes. And it's okay for them to ask for what they are asking for. But then some of us consider that there are other important things that should be considered first. For example, we know that the National House of Chiefs is a creation of statute. It's not a creation of our traditions. And yet women who are queens are not allowed into the House of Chiefs, not even women who are chiefs in their own right, even though the Constitution has said from time immemorial that the definition of a chief includes Queen Mother. So I think there are some basics that we need to take care of if we are talking about democratic development. And representation should mean actual representation, because I think that we are in modern times, we have moved forward. And if we can clear some of these things that make us more democratic, then we can ask for things like effective timber and so on. They are clearly within their rights. They are very basic democratic issues that must be taken care of.
Well, can you really blame them? If you look at the Constitution, it talks clearly about chiefs. I checked it today. It didn't mention queens at all. So maybe
it does.
They're certainly talking about that.
No. If you look at the interpretation section, chiefs include queen mothers. You must look at the interpretation section. It is there. But for donkey years, we have been talking about the fact that, you know, queens are not allowed into the National House of Chiefs. They're trying to create associations of their own, but we know that there will be no clout and there will be no real power as it is when it comes to decision concerning their own rights.
And we apologize because the line is not that clear. We'll try and re-establish contact, but I'm wondering if you can hear me still?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. You talk about the interpretation section of the Constitution, and I'm wondering if it's really there. You've been advocating for years. If you've been advocating for years on these issues, I'm wondering what you've done to get attention, draw attention to that, because most people will read the main Constitution and forget about the interpretation section.
No, the interpretation section is there, and it is part of our Constitution. It's part of the legal framework of this land. Secondly, lots of things have been done, and I know that the National House of Chiefs has been working with consultants who are colleagues of mine to not only codify customary laws, but to also bring about the changes that we are asking for in terms of proper representation of the women who have been part of the traditional governance, but who have been marginalized also. So the things that are going on, and we know that it's going to change.
What response have you had so far in this agenda to get queens properly represented when it comes to decision making?
It has not been easy. You may want to speak to a number of the that have been really in the forefront of this, and some of the women's rights advocates who have been working with them. It has not been easy. Yes, a number of the chiefs are open. Some of them also keep up with the users that I think we have gone.
Okay, I might just say we apologize for that. The line is not that clear, and indeed it dropped. But thank you very much, madam, for your time here on Joy News today. That's Angela Jamanabaji, is a women's rights advocate.
So away from advocacy, if you have ever been detained in police cells over the weekend because you were arrested on a Friday and could not be arraigned before court, then this news may appeal to you. The Constitutional Review Commission recommends that the police cannot detain for more than 24 hours. This calls for the establishment of a weekend court. Before you heave a sigh of relief, government has rejected the proposal, insisting on the 48-hour rule.
The Constitutional Review Commission argues that to beef up Ghana's human rights situation, there is the need to ensure that civil liberties of arrested persons are not abused. Now, instead of the 48-hour detention rule, they are advocating 24 hours.
In the 69 Constitution, the provision was that you shouldn't be detained for more than 24 hours without trial. In the 79 Constitution, again, 24 hours without trial. Then for some reason in 92, it says 48 hours. Now with the advancement in technology, the advancement in the court systems, one would have thought that we'd rather reduce it from 24 hours to 12 hours. The Commission said no. We have mechanisms for ensuring that we bring people who violate traffic offences to a Saturday court and penalize them. Therefore, when the liberty of the individual is at stake, we should be able to act with as much expedition and bring him before a court of law within 24 hours.
But government thinks otherwise, arguing about financial implications of the amendment among several other reasons.
When you're in private practice, you see it from one side. When you get into prosecution, it's a different ballgame altogether. You see, there are a lot of constraints. As I said, you get to court, you get a judge who is anxious to have the case heard and determined as quickly as possible. Who say, okay, you've presented the facts, the charge has been read, now bring your first witness. Meanwhile, you wouldn't have prepared. I also agree that sometimes it is abused. I won't deny that. You know, there have been a few occasions when I've gone mad at some police officers and so on who have sought to abuse that opportunity given to prosecutors. But all said and done, you need to, as I said, balance the equation. There'll be some people who will be mischievous, but generally we have a problem. You see, the network that we have is not like in the advanced countries, where, for example, you have the database of all human beings in the country. You can even easily access the computer and you get all the information on Mr. X. Now with us, we'll have to go through the manual system.
But a member of the commission and a lawyer, Gabriel Puaman, would not buy government's argument.
It is only in the 1992 Constitution that we extended it to 48 hours. If you are talking about logistics support, we are talking about the resources for the police. Are you saying it is worse now than it was in the past? I think what we're trying to do in the Constitution, the Commission wants to set the standards for all institutions to work within that. And we are not saying that release the people. After the 24 hours, if you think there is justification to keep the person detained, go before a magistrate and justify it.
It seems government's white paper may have trashed the proposal, but Minister of Information Fitzpatrick says government would still engage the public.
The thing is that I said that you can make your point on the issues that were rejected. We've given you the means. If you go to the desk, they'll give you how to go about it, to register whatever opinion you have, and we'll look at all those things. That's why we had the media engagement.
Until then, the police could still clandestinely arrest you on a Friday and keep you over the weekend, cooling you up in a cell.
Now, 2 suspects have been arrested by the Amasaman District Police during a swoop in a bush at Opam. Among items retrieved from the suspect was a notebook containing a list of people making donations towards the funeral of an armed robber who was recently gunned down by the police.
On Thursday, August 9th, the Amasaman police received a distress call from a resident of Opam that their village was under attack.
A group of armed robbers, numbering about 8, have visited the place, terrorizing people, robbing them of their phones, mobile phones and other valuables, including money. So quickly, the response from the police was swift. But when they got there, the robbers managed to flee, ran into the bush. They fled the scene of crime.
About 80 meters away from the crime scene, the police found this unregistered Ford car and placed 2 police officers to guard it. Another 2 officers joined the complainant's private car, and upon moving a few meters from the car, they spotted 2 of the robbers on a motorbike.
Just at 10, they were able to spot 2 of the robbers who opened fire on our men in the private car, in the complainant car. They also returned fire in the process, shot and killed one of the robbers, one a cutter, but the other one, who sat the passenger on the motorbike, who is also a robber, fled into the bush.
On the 12th of August, the Amasaman police conducted a follow-up swoop in the area, during which they arrested a suspect, 27-year-old unemployed Yao Fosu, alias Abenkwang, in a bush. Among the items retrieved from him were 77 wrappers of dry leaves suspected to be India hemp, 6 matchboxes, 3 mobile phones, and an amount of 18 Ghana cedis, 30 pesos. Yao Fosu led the police to the house of another suspect, 29-year-old unemployed Kweku Teria, whom he said was the supplier of the leaves.
There was a book that's the content. There was a book which had list of people contributing money towards the funeral of the deceased robber. So we are still investigating whether they have any connection with Akata, whether they are also involved or they were involved in the previous week robbery.
DSP Tete called on the general public to help the police flush out all criminals in the region by providing them with any information that can lead to the arrest of the criminals.
And you're still listening to Joy News at 8. Still ahead, MPP downplays the efficiency of a Mahama Emisa Arthur ticket, saying nothing has changed with Professor Mills's death.
And Multimedia Group secures rights for the 2012 English Premier League. Please stick with us. We'll be right back. You're welcome back and many thanks for staying with us. NPP Chairman Jake Obechebi-Lamte has appealed to President John Mahama and Vice President Kwesi Emisa Arthur to drive the nation gently like a spare tire. He said the NPP and other discerning Ghanaians realize nothing has changed with the coming into office of Mahama Emisa Arthur's inspiring caretaker team.
Citing a statement President Mahama made on the one-week celebrations of late President Mills's death, that President Mills reposed absolute trust in him, making him the chairman of the Police Council, Armed Forces Council, Economic Management Team, and so on. The NPP's point is that nothing will change since he was already running the country.
According to President John Mahama, he ran the show under President Mills. President Mills allowed him to run the show because the late president trusted him fully. So the obvious question is this: what did Vice President Mahama do with the power that Professor Atta Mills gave him, and what did he do to deserve the absolute trust that President Mills reposed in him? Economic mismanagement.
Jake Obechebi-Lamte said for more than 3.5 years, John Mahama led the economic management team, with now Vice President Emisa Arthur in charge of monetary policies as governor of the Bank of Ghana. His view is that the same team that failed to deliver on the economy are the same team now in charge. According to the NPP, within the relatively short period of John Mahama's presidency, he has shown incompetence and poor judgment in critical decision-making.
There is nothing new about the John Mahama Emisa Arthur ticket. They have spent the last 3 years presiding over PR gimmicks, vile propaganda, the depreciation of the cedi, and ever-rising prices. Within this relatively short period of his presidency, we in the MPP have cause to worry about the incompetence so far shown by President John Mahama. His penchant to take bad decisions without consulting the relevant stakeholders, as in his flawed decision to turn the Jubilee House into a presidential cemetery. His shocking explanation to foreign diplomats that had he chosen his vice presidential nominee earlier, he would have been accused of, quote, assassinating the president, unquote. His strange and rash decision to launch his campaign during President Mills's one-week funeral celebration. The indecision characterizing the choice of a burial place for the late president. His decision to break his own admonition to NDC communicators by being the first to throw an insult at Ghanaians by describing the unnecessary debate that he himself generated over the choice of burial place for the late president as, quote, useless, unquote.
Jake Obechebi-Lamte says it is even more worrying that President Mahama does not give Ghanaians any hope in the fight against corruption because of his own scandalous involvement in some of the most scandalous contracts and loan agreements in recent years.
President Mahama is also responsible for the acquisition of the Embraer 190 presidential jet, which has been disguised as a military jet. This deal, you will remember, included a ridiculously inflated price of $1 million for a staircase, $1 million for an entertainment package, and $17 million for a hangar in which to park and house the plane. Similarly, President John Mahama is the face of the NDC's broken promises. He championed the SADA project, a concept stolen, first derided, then stolen from the MPP's Northern Development Authority. The promise of an initial startup capital of 200 million Ghana cedis and a further 100 million Ghana cedis every year was neglected, just like the affordable housing project started by President Kufuor.
He also added the NPP is ready to desist from the politics of insults if the NDC would do same. He urged the NDC to promote free and fair elections and peacefully hand over the country to the NPP when they win the December polls.
The constitutional instrument which would have given the Electoral Commission legal backing to proceed with the creation of 45 new constituencies will be withdrawn from Parliament tomorrow. This follows recommendations by the Subsidiary Legislative Committee of Parliament to withdraw the document due to errors cited in it. An amended one will be presented to Parliament for consideration.
The CI-73 presented to Parliament by the Electoral Commission would have matured tomorrow, exactly 21 days since it was first tabled for consideration. Majority Leader Cletus Avoka insists the withdrawal is done during tomorrow's sitting to allow various caucuses to review the new document before it is presented to Parliament.
It is for the avoidance of doubt that I'm saying that we'll spend this afternoon and evening cleaning this one. And tomorrow, first thing as business, we will withdraw the earlier one, the CR73, and lay this one. Because this one too has a lot of mistakes in it, and we just want to avoid that one. I want my honourable colleague to have trust and faith in the agreement that we have. Nobody breaching it. We are all taking due care.
In related development, Parliament today approved an agreement between the Government of Ghana and the Export-Import Bank of China for an amount of $31,951,000 to finance the establishment of an ICT-enabled distance education project at the University of Ghana, Legon. The facility will enable long-distance students across the country to conveniently access lectures, notes, and books in real time. Both the majority and minority lauded the project. However, Professor Christopher Ameyao Ekumfi, MP for Techiman North, questioned why the committee in charge of the project considered only the University of Ghana as beneficiaries of the project. According to him, the ICT-enabled distance education project should be extended to cover other public universities.
If indeed the third on this list is benefiting from this, which we think is going to be useful, it is imperative on government to make it possible for these other institutions to also have this facility.
MP for Evaluate Jura, Catherine Afeku, called for such ICT facilities for rural junior high schools and senior high schools so that students will be familiar with ICT devices before they enter universities.
Up next is the business segment. In business today, stakeholders in Cowbank Limited have expressed satisfaction at the half-year performance of the bank in 2012. Notably, the bank recorded half-year profit after tax of about 19 million cedis, representing 247% increase compared to the same period last year. This was disclosed at the bank's presentation to media and analysts under the auspices of the Ghana Stock Exchange.
With over 22 years of corporate banking, Cal Bank now hopes, as part of better repositioning itself in the market, to engage in more retail products. From the beginning of the year to date, the bank has reported tremendous improvement in performance. Balance sheets reveal a 66.4% increase in deposits, representing 657 Ghana cedis, while shareholders' fund went up by 103.6%, in real terms, 171.8 million cedis. For SNIT, the biggest investor with over 30% shares, these improvements, coupled with high profit margins at a time when the industry is faced with a number of challenges, is impressive.
Impairment losses have decreased, which is very, very impressive, because most times when banks make such a impressive performance in terms of their profitability, impairment usually also go up, but they were able to reduce the impairment charges, and the cost to income ratio too has come down, which we are very glad. And as investors, we are sure that come next year, when they are paying dividend, we are going to have a lot of dividend for the pensioners.
Without direct interest in Cal Bank, brokerage firm Gold Coast Securities assure its clients will be happy with the results.
If you bought into Cal Share today, you'll be making a good investment for the future, because you're expecting some good inflow and some good earnings. So I think it's gone quite well. It will be to find a way of getting accurate information to people who make buying and selling decisions, and in doing so on time.
With a stated capital of about 100 million cedis, Cal Bank has also managed to increase profitability to over 200%, while recording a balance sheet size increase of over 68%. Executive Director Philip Redu says shareholders and customers can only look forward to more.
In terms of capital gains, when you buy the shares now, you would be able to, the price of the shares would appreciate very soon, and that means the value of your holding would go up. With the performance of the bank also, that means that in terms of dividend payments, your returns on that stock that you buy would go up based on the performance and the profitability of the bank.
They were speaking on the sidelines of the bank's presentation of half-year results to media and business analysts.
Barring any last-minute challenge, the Bank of Ghana will next week release for circulation the upgraded 50 cedi banknote. Joy Business Live has gathered the note will bear the signature of Vice President Kwesi Emisa Arthur. This is because the notes were printed in June when he was the governor of the bank. However, notes issued later will bear the signature of the acting governor Henry Kofi Wampa. The upgraded notes will be in circulation with the existing note until the old notes are completely withdrawn. The release of the new 50 cedi note is expected to curb the circulation of counterfeits in the system. The new note has enhanced security features, particularly the green cocoa pod spark, which will replace the silver hologram patch on the right corner. Meanwhile, the acting governor, according to report, will occupy that position till December. Still in business, the economy of the Eurozone shrunk 0.2% in 3 months from April to June compared with the previous quarter. The figures from Eurostat covering the 17 countries that use the euro followed zero growth in the previous quarter.
Even Europe's biggest economy, Germany, grew by 0.3% in the second quarter, helped by exports and domestic consumption. France, on the other hand, announced its economy had recorded zero growth in the period, which was better than had been expected. The French economy had also posted zero growth in the previous 2 quarters. Among the Eurozone's biggest contractions, Portugal's GDP shrunk by 1.2%. Cyprus recorded a 0.8% contraction, while Italy was down by 0.7%. Comparable figures from Ireland and Greece are not yet available. But on Monday, Greece released GDP figures that showed its economy contracted by 6.2% in the second quarter compared with the same period a year earlier. The first quarter's zero growth means the Eurozone is still not in recession on the generally accepted definition of 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, but the outlook for the rest of the year is gloomy. GDP measures the total amount of goods and services produced by an economy.
So some good news for Cowbank stakeholders, and that ends business segment for tonight.
Cannot wait for the games to begin, but we still stick with football, and the Black Stars have had their first training session ahead of their friendly international against China. 17 players turned up for the training session.
The Black Stars trained at the Shaanxi Province Stadium earlier today ahead of the friendly against China. Coach Kwesi Appiah led his charges during the training session at the venue for tomorrow's friendly. With the exception of defender John Boy, who could not make the trip due to injury, all the other 17 players invited were present for the training session. The game is one of the 36 matches taking place on Wednesday. Ghana's squad is made up of goalkeepers Adam Lassen Karsey and Ernest Soa. Defenders are Harrison Affle, Lee Ade, Isaac Vosa, John Mensah and Abdul Razak Nuhu. Midfielders include Anthony Annan, Derek Boateng, Christian Achu, Kojo Asamoah, Franka Champon and Edwin Jima. And strikers are Asamoah Jan, Emmanuel Clottey, Richmond Boachi Adam and Abdul Majid Waris.
So we wish the Black Stars all the best in tomorrow's friendly match. Remember, it will be 12 midday in Ghana, but 20 hours in China. Ending the sports segment for this evening. Coming up next, Continental News. Good evening.
Continental News. Sponsored by Global Lighting Centre, your solution to quality lighting.
Welcome to Continental News. In Continental News today, flooding caused by heavy rains in central Nigeria has killed at least 28 people, with many others still missing and also destroying homes, bridges and farmland.
According to Kemi Inshe, local government chairman for the Shandam district in central Nigeria's Plateau State, some 1,500 people have been displaced by the rains, the worst of which occurred on Sunday.
The flooding is said to have affected close to 5 districts, leading to the breaking down of bridges and houses. A Red Cross official said the heavy rain, which began Saturday night, continued into Sunday and hindered relief workers from accessing flood areas. Last month, in another area of Plateau State, heavy rainfall forced the dam to overflow, destroying 200 homes and leaving about 35 people dead. Much of Africa's most populous nation has been affected by heavy seasonal rainfall. Officials have warned more flooding is likely to occur in a number of areas in the coming days.
The wreckage of 2 Ugandan helicopters that went missing on Sunday has been found in a remote area of Kenya. Officials say 2 bodies have been recovered and 5 other people on the aircraft have also been rescued.
The wreckage of the 2 missing helicopters were spotted on Mount Kenya, Africa's second highest peak, at 5,199 meters by wildlife officers. Both attack helicopters were part of a contingent being sent to reinforce the African Union force in Somalia. Kenyan Army spokesman said passengers of the 3rd helicopter on the same mission who made an emergency landing on Mount Kenya on Sunday have been rescued. Only one of the 4 Russian-made helicopters en route to Somalia made a scheduled refueling stop on Sunday in the Kenyan town of Garissa.
Before we end the segment, 2 police officers have been killed in violence between the National Union of Mine Workers and the Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union, while 1 other remains in critical condition. A police spokesman, Lindela Mashigo, says at least 9 people have died as a result of the clashes between the 2 rival unions at Platinum Mine in South Africa.
Authorities struggled to control the clashes at Lomnin's mine operation near Marikana, a town about 70 kilometers northwest of Johannesburg, with rioters at one point overpowering officers and stealing their weapons. Protests began on Friday at the mine when workers walked off the job over a salary dispute. 4 workers from a rival union attempting to go to work were attacked by the original strikers. Angry protesters returned to the mine on Sunday, killing 2 security guards by setting their car on fire. 2 other miners died on Monday in different attacks. Lesiba Sisoke, National Union of Mine Workers spokesman, said the fighting has shut down Lomin's operation near Marikana. Solidarity, a union that largely represents skilled white workers, said in a statement on Monday that 3 of its members had been injured in the protests. The union also threatened to pull its workers from the site if calm was not restored.
Continental News.
Sponsored by Global Lighting Centre, your solution to quality lighting.
Your new lighting really provides the finishing touch. Where did you get this from?
Global Lighting Centre, of course. They've always been affordable and their quality is second to none.
When it comes to lighting, there's only one name, Global Lighting Centre. We've got all the latest European models.
It's not just the quality outside. Our office lighting features European standard capacitors and ballast to protect your products.
Our outdoor lights are weather protected and their diffusers won't discolor over time. Moreover, we offer technical advice to all our customers before and after sales.
All of which convinced me and my family that Global Lighting has the brightest ideas and at the most affordable prices for all our lighting needs.
Global Lighting Centre, your solution to quality lighting.
And that is how we end Joy News at 8. Thank you very much for your company. My name is Evans Mensah.
And mine is Gifty Ando Apia. Many thanks for staying with us.